All right, everybody. Welcome to the All Things Gratitude podcast. I'm your host, Nick Dorsey, and I want to say, first of all, if your holidays were great, awesome. Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever we celebrate. I hope you had a great time. We're able to either see family over video or see them in person or whatever through this tough year. But I hope things went great for everyone. So I just want to put that out there first. So happy holidays, and hopefully this new year will bring a better year to all of us through this tough times, and we'll move forward. Really quick before we start our show, I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Impulse Consulting. If you're looking to have your LinkedIn profile audited, or you're looking for their new 12-step, 12-week one-on-one coaching to help bring your profile from optimization to lead generation, please contact them. The link's in below in the comments. Hit them and say you saw it on this podcast. Well, now we're getting to our guest. I'm so excited today. I met him on this kind of new platform that was coming out a couple weeks ago, and it was a really cool platform where you got to break off into all these different rooms and everybody and talk to people. And they had, I believe, 5 keynote speakers on that one, I guess you'd call it. And it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of really cool people, and our next guest is one of our next guests is a speaker and author, a coach. He does leadership training to millions of people across the world. And a big thing, if you have done the LinkedIn Learning series, you have seen him. He is an instructor for some of the courses. He's got humor. He leads with humor, his insight. I mean, he just inspires a lot of people. So I'm just really excited to have him on the show. Please welcome to the All Things Gratitude podcast, Dr. Todd Dewett. Todd, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing great, man. I mean, when we first met, you were talking, I'm like, God, he sounds familiar, and I recognize him. And then when you mentioned you did the LinkedIn Learning, I was like, bam, there it is. I took some of your courses. So really excited to meet you, through that way. And, then come around where you're very gracious to be able to come on the podcast, I mean, just get yourself out there. So I'm really excited for this, and thanks for being here.
Absolutely happy to be here. So I'll ask you, since you brought the topic up a minute ago, holidays treating you well?
Holidays are treating us well. I'm in a state that's not closed down, locked down. So we had, our family gathering, here in Arizona, and we're able to have some fun that way. We're still safe and everything, but it treated us well. I have an older brother and a younger brother who've lived in Arizona for 8 years now. And my parents have been here for 4, and we just moved here this year. So this was the first time, I think it's 6 years, we've been able to spend the holidays together. So that was very nice on that aspect. So very good to see everybody. So we're big Italians, so we have Italian feasts. So it was a lot of fun. So
nice.
Yeah. How was yours?
Good. Not as fun as yours, but it was good. Because of the pandemic, I live in Houston, and our general respect for trying to get that thing under control, and for family reasons, health reasons. There's multiple reasons. We ended up having to do what a lot of us chose to do this time around, which is really distance and not get together. So I had some driveway time with some family members. I am on my second wife. The first wife, aka my starter wife, she's one of my best friends. We're very close, and her and my 2 boys live very close by. But for lots of reasons, especially the pandemic, we weren't able to do our traditional Christmas for the first time. And it was, I think, one of the hardest things I've ever done was to go throughout Christmas Day and not be able to goof around with my 2 boys. So I'm not crying, but it was different, man. I'm looking forward to a year after we get past this stuff.
We did do ours outside, which moving to Arizona from the state of Washington, I've never been on Christmas where it's 70 degrees. So that was very different. And, my dad does have valley fever right now. So fighting valley fever, if you're from the South, it's a really hard respiratory infection, and it keeps you having pneumonia he's had pneumonia now for 2 months.
Ouch.
And so, there were masks being worn when we're here and we're outside, but we kept everything outside. It was way different, but just thankful that, we're still be able to do something. But, it's just interesting year all around the world. So hopefully, in the next 5 or 6 months, everything can calm down and we get back to somewhat normal, at least see people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
absolutely. So Todd, let's get into this. I mean, you have an awesome story, from all the way to the beginning, from Tennessee, making your way, did my homework, coming all the way up through here, and just going with school and, living in corporate America. I put one of your promo videos in the links, and I just love it because what I really like about it is, I'm going to say, the philosophy that you have, I really feel the same about. I say you got to treat people like humans, not numbers. And you always talk about treating people real, and then you talk about being yourself. One great line I love of yours is show your ink, and I just think it's great. And then you had a story in there about how one of your friends, because you used to wear a sports coat and everything into these meetings and everything, and just told you need to be real.
Yeah.
And I just love how you did that. And it just turned into this great, turned you into a great author, turned you into a great speaker, a keynote speaker, and people really are attracted towards you in that way. Just tell us how it all got started and how you got into that direction, why you went that way.
Absolutely. I appreciate you. Appreciate the kind words. I've been very lucky, man. I'm on my third career. The first one was with Big Box Consulting, Anderson and Ernst & Young. That did not last very long for me because I knew a few things quickly. I knew that I didn't fit in corporate life at all. I'm a loud, cantankerous, action-oriented, change agent type of guy. And that can make living inside a traditional hierarchy a little difficult sometimes. That's just based on my personality. That's all. But I was fascinated by business. I was fascinated by relationships as a facet of business. And I was absolutely intrigued how people weren't, they weren't keeping it real, man. Everyone was acting every day, which was funny to me because none of us were trained to be actors. So I found that interesting. And then that led me to my second career, which was to love business and study relationships from a place where I fit better, which was academia. So I went and got a PhD, Texas A&M in organizational behavior in the business school, which kind of makes me the business school's version of a shrink. We study people at work, what makes teams click, what makes leaders effective. And I love doing that. And I ended a school in Ohio called Wright State University. Loved being there, taught MBAs for 10 years. Life was great. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to stay here until I'm 75. And they give me a watch and, send me away. And, you have your plan, but then life happens. And for me, the phone just started ringing from past students who were managers. Hey, we got a big event coming up. I remember some of your stories are great. Would you come out and give a talk? And I did that like a rookie for free for far too long. And finally, people started paying me. It was unexpected. And my little side hustle grew and grew. And I started writing books and it kept growing. And then LinkedIn, or the precursor to LinkedIn Learning, which was called lynda.com, they found me online. We got along well. They found out that I could look into a camera and read very effectively. And so we started making courses. And then I had to retire. I had to retire on career 2 to take the speaking, writing course thing full time. And I moved to Houston, Texas for friends and family and business reasons, and made this my new home. And I love it. So now I've got the latest book just came out. Sorry.
Awesome. No, plug it away, man. That's what we're here for.
You mentioned Show Your Ink. That was the book that kind of put me on the map. It's a book of stories. This is my second book of stories called Live Hard. It's about taking risks, embracing creativity and innovation in your life. And I'm very excited about it. And I keep making new courses. And I don't know what else to say. I get to do fun things with expertise that I have, an interest that I have that helps people. And I make a living doing that, which blows my mind. I don't have any complaint. To use your name of your podcast, I have a lot of gratitude this year for a lot of reasons. But one thing I'm going to go ahead and complain about, man, I miss standing in front of people live, in person, on stage, telling stories. That doesn't happen very much. So I'm hopeful to get back to that.
Speaking of that, I'm that type of person too. I love working with people, being in front of people. And yes, you do great work with your, I guess how would you say it? Your Zoom ones or what virtual, ones. But here's the thing. It's not like being in front of people, because in front of a camera, you can't feel that aura. You can't just feel the energy that's in the room like you do when you speak live. If anybody hasn't seen any Todd's speeches, man, you can just feel it. People are laughing in the room. People are laid back. I mean, it's a fun atmosphere. It's not like one of those boring speeches where somebody's up there I mean, you have fun with it, and
You
that's
better
what
have
it's
fun.
about.
And nobody watching you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And my people who know me and everything know that my ultimate goal is to get to be a speaker, to be a public speaker, to do that. And I just love, being able to talk with you and being able to talk with other people who've done that, because it's an ambition. I love watching everybody and see how they do it, because it's done different.
It's
And,
done
and you just pick away from how everybody's done it, then you bring it in, I mean,
you'll find your own style. If you want to get there, just keep taking more and more and more opportunities, and they'll be all free at first. And that's the way everyone begins, and that's normal. And get up there and get it videoed. I mean, I'm asked this all the time, so I'll give you the advice for free. I'm always happy to give. Speak as much as you can, get it on video, go find people, hopefully local and in person, who are several steps ahead of you. Tell them to be brutal and look at you live and look at you on that video and tell you what you are really showing that you may not even be showing people. There's ways your message will need to change. There's ways your body's talking that you didn't even know about. There's great assets you have that you weren't really focused on leveraging. It's amazing what happens when you take the leap, and it's scary, and that's fine, and let someone else start telling you what you're actually showing people up there. And sometimes it's surprising.
That was one of the big reasons why I started this podcast, was just to put myself out there. One, to get, this was totally breaking my comfort zone doing this. So that was number one. I need to break that ice. And then number two, this is my 37th episode, and I could see the progress that every episode's getting better and better and better. So it's helping me and getting positive feedback. And then having, as I'm growing, getting some more guests that are higher up the chain, I guess you would say, of where they public spoken, things they've done, different authors now. And it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. So, that's been huge. So we're getting a lot of comments really quick. So I want to say hi to some people. Sure. I want to say hi to Dr. Ken Richmond. How you doing, Ken? I was on his first ever live he did, so that was a lot of fun. So being able to do that. Andrew's out there. What's up, Andrew? Ken did a couple one. Laura said she loves listening to Todd. So yeah, so that's great. Ken did put down business is all about relationships, which he's absolutely, in my mind, he's absolutely correct. So. And then thank you. I enjoy that. This guy's one of my hardest critics, so have some fun with him.
Hey, it's a skill.
He's great.
You can talk podcasting or writing or public speaking. It's all a skill. First book I ever wrote was bad. I'm now into the consistently good. Someday I might be great. I'm not sure. But the trend is always positive, and that's all you can ask for. Speaking's no different. When I started, I was bearable for sure, but I was nowhere near as good as I am now. It's a skill. You'll get there. You got to start taking your lumps. The sooner the better.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, Jeffrey. We appreciate it. Here's my big thing. One of my bucket list items I want to do is attend, a TED Talk, a TED Speak. And I believe you've done 2 of them now.
Just got a book for the 3rd one, actually.
Awesome. So tell us how that came about. How did they contact you? Did you reach out to them, or how does this work out for you to get on that stage?
It came my way. I wish I had better answers sometimes, Nick. I don't want to sound condescending. I'm so lucky. There's that word again, fortunate, gratitude. I'm so lucky. The phone just rings sometimes. The more you put out good stuff, the more good stuff comes to you. That sounds really simple, but it certainly defined my success. So the first one, people asked me to do it just because they knew who I was and wanted me on their show. It was 2013. The second one, I actually sent them a note because my PhD was Texas A&M, and I saw online randomly they were hosting a TEDx, and I just dropped them a note on their website. Hey, this is who I am. I'd love to take part. I'm a big supporter since I went to school there, etc. And that worked out, and it's actually going to be in March. And then I was randomly asked a couple days ago to do one in June that's going to be virtual. So I mean, the short answer is put good stuff out there so that anytime, for any reason, not just a TED Talk, but for any reason, people evaluate you, and they're going to have lots of positive things to go look at, read, consume, watch. But then, hey, be proactive. I did it once, and maybe it's easier for me because it was Texas A&M. Having said that, yeah, be proactive. Drop a note to the people who are announcing that they're organizing a TEDx, but they have yet to get all the speakers done, and you've got to be ready. You got to be ready. If you want to talk about your pitch, if you want to talk about your website, your LinkedIn, your pitch, I'll be happy to lay my eyes on it and tell you what is it, the good or the bad, the what's missing, what would be ideal that I see. But it's possible. They're always looking for more TEDx, man.
Yeah, that's great. Speaking of websites, we're in the middle of building mine right now. So we're to the point where the podcasts are out on Anchor and Spotify and everything. So we got to start creating those backlinks. We got to, start creating all those fun ways to get out there, and get the SEOs and all those fun things, So I'm really learning about all those right now and really trying to work on that. So that's a big thing. So it's exciting for me right now. It's just, it's an exciting time on that. And, so when you travel the world, you keynote speak, you talk at TEDx, you talk at universities, what do you find most gratifying, or what do you find that's the most fun with all this that you're doing right now?
Oh, so many good answers to that question, man. Just specifically thinking about speaking, there is, of course, a self-indulgent answer to that. It is fun for most of us, or almost all of us, to stand up there and be the center of attention. Hey, look at me. I have something to say, and you'll value it, I swear. So that's kind of fun. I don't know why I developed into that person, and it needs to be managed with respect. But that is self-gratifying. And then the most gratifying part by far is watching light bulbs turn on. When you emotionally touch someone, you're going to then be able to make them learn. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm an expert. I could go speak." I don't care if you're an expert. It doesn't mean you can speak. If you can't figure out how to communicate effectively with emotions and use vehicles, that's pace and tone of voice and stories and examples. If you can't emotionally shake someone up, the learning's really going to be minor or non-existent. But if you can get light bulbs to turn on because you've done something that touches people emotionally, that's the most gratifying thing in the world. I'll give you an example. So show your ink. I think you can see it behind me over there. Over there. Let's try that again. There's a story in there, the story, show your ink, she referenced earlier. And, it's funny, that's a core story in the keynote I've been doing for a few years now. And I've had many people, I mean, 50, 60 people at least, come up to me over the years and say, I had a problem with so-and-so in my family. Usually it's a son or a daughter. And they got some ink. And I told them not to, and I didn't approve of it, and I didn't agree with it. And I thought they were ruining their life, ruining their career, and other difficult things I said to them. But you know what? Now I realize it's no different than your choice of hairstyle or your jeans or whatever, because I just sat there and I was absolutely taken by what you did, and you're covered in ink. So why would I think that way about my son or my daughter? Mm-hmm. I've heard versions of that story many times. And then they tell me something like, well, I can't wait to get out of here. I'm going to go call them. I'm going to apologize for the crass things I said and the attitude I've given them ever since about that thing, and just encourage them to be accomplishing things, because it's the behaviors and the outcomes in their life that actually matter, not how they dress, look, or to be specific, the ink they might have on their arm or something like that. So when you take a person, and I do it by telling stories about tattoos in that one book, I think I mentioned them again in Live Hard. When you take people, make them a little uncomfortable, a little emotional, make them maybe even laugh, and rethink something that they thought they were done thinking about. For example, how do you be a leader? How many people want to just exert authority as opposed to trying to be a humble listener, a helper, a supporter and builder of other people, not just a person that dictates orders. That is your right. That's the authority of a leader, but there's a way to do it right that maximizes the relationship for the long term. And when you take someone who doesn't fully believe that, and you help them, again, through stories on a stage, help them go, that kind of makes sense to me. I should rethink how I'm doing that, and maybe that'll impact both me and my team. That's the most gratifying thing in the world. So I got lucky and fell in love with studying things that matter to all of us. It wasn't a plan. It just happens to be the area that I fell in love with. And what we know is that work's killing us. There's a guy out at Stanford named Jeffrey Pfeffer, quite famous. If you have never heard of him, you should look him up. Fascinating guy. He wrote a book on many types of books. One of them recently got a lot of attention about how work's killing us. And he means it quite literally, because we all stay at work more than any other place in our days, for better or for worse. Mm-hmm. While we're at work, we get stressed out in all kinds of ways. And there are very real, measurable things that happen to us over time because of the stress we experience at work, right? So I'm talking everything from migraines and backaches to ulcers to depression to all kinds of things. So whatever we can do to make those hours at work more productive, maybe even fun on occasion and fulfilling, something that smacks of purpose, not just, hey, I survived the day. That to me sounds like a righteous thing. And it's my calling to help people at work be more productive, but especially to help leaders help others experience a more positive thing, not just to make bottom line better, which is part of the equation for sure, but to make people's experiences every day, dare I say, worth it. I'm not saying we're all going to have magical love and peace and happiness every day at work. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we can move the average significantly if we think more about how to lead people.
Absolutely. You mentioned something about being up on stage and saying something that resonates with people. God, it was about 9-10 years ago. I was at a conference and the keynote speaker was talking about, this is right when I was getting into my management level and everything. And he was up there speaking and he was like, how many of you guys are managers or executives? So, 90% of the people raise their hand in the crowd. He goes, how many of you have had a great leader that you just could just say awesome to? And about half the people raise their hand and they go, how many of you had a horrible leader that you just wanted to punch in the face? And almost everybody raised their hand. Absolutely. And then he said a couple things. Now you're in this leadership position. Now you're an authority of power and everything. He goes, don't be that asshole. Do not be that other leader that made your life miserable, that made you want to quit, that made you feel like you wanted to punch somebody in the face. Be that person where people can feel like you have an open door. They can come to you. They can be open and honest. Don't be above them. You're the same level. You're only in the position you're in because maybe you're better at the political side of things, or maybe you're better at speaking, or you just have more leadership experience, and that's just resonated with me. It's like, I'm no better than anybody in my company. Maybe I just have a little more experience than some people, and that's it. And some people just want to be electricians. Some people just want to be plumbers. Some people want the leadership, and it doesn't mean you're better than anybody else. Because if I didn't need that electrician or plumber with their experience, then why hire them? I could do it all, and that's not the thing, it's just, you hire people just as good or better than you. And I always love that line because I believe it's true. And
couldn't agree more. What you're describing is pretty common though. The idea that you're not a leader and then you become a leader and you find out this isn't exactly what I thought. This is more work than I thought. This is not easy. One size does not fit all. They all now are criticizing me in ways that they didn't used to before I was charged with running the team. It is not easy. The good news is, and I like to, kind of on purpose be redundant, it is a skill. When you think about leadership, in fact, one of the stories in Live Hard it's called License to Lead. And it's me crying about how there isn't a license to lead, literally, because the truth is anyone with the pulse can be appointed by a boss to be a boss, right? And that's not great. That's not a great way to vet leaders at all. The truth is we need to have looked at some of their past successes in terms of relationships or actual leadership, or have reason to believe based on their leadership, based on their communication skills and their relationships, that they would be a good fit for leadership roles. And then, I make this joke and I'm very serious about it. If you want to be a doctor, you got to get a license, not just a degree. You got to get a license. You want to be an accountant? There's going to be a license to do that. You want to be an insurance broker? License. You want to be a little kid selling Kool-Aid on a stand in your neighborhood. Most places in the U.S., you can get ticketed if you don't have a license to do that. You have to have a license for almost everything. But if you want to be a leader at work, a leader who we know, and there's many flavors of social scientists who have studied leadership, we know they have a massive impact on the lives of others. It could be negative, neutral, or positive. On average, that varies across leaders. And as you know, there's plenty of good ones and plenty of bad ones. But you have an impact. Sometimes you can lift them up and make them think life is worth living and they are capable and good. Other times, bad bosses will give people ulcers and make them cry. I got a story in there about a boss that took one of my former students and berated her publicly because he was a sexist, long story short, and it reduced her to tears. I'm talking about driving to work and not going in, sitting in your car and feeling pain and tears because you don't want to volunteer to walk in for that kind of abuse. Leaders have an impact, good or bad. They have a huge impact, and yet there's no vetting, there's no license, there's no required credential. And I'm not saying there should be maybe the same way there is for a traditional medical doctor, But we can do better than we're doing now, which is no requirements. Jim says Todd can be a boss. He's a boss. And now he has power over people's lives, real power. That makes me uncomfortable. So I hope that chapter gets people talking about how we could vet better, vet maybe a little more formally.
And sometimes they just put people in positions because they have tenure or they've been there for a long period of time. It doesn't mean you're good with people. That's the biggest thing. I was very fortunate how I made it up through the reins and everything. I mean, we talked about it in Run of the World when I came on and spoke with you guys, and something that resonated with me. I loved it. It came from your mouth. It's like, you need to tell your story. And I was like, what? Really? Because I don't think of it that way, because it's just who I am. But then I hear it from somebody say, you need to tell it. I'm like, okay, well, I see which direction I have to go now. And I'll just do a really quick. A lot of people know me as I started digging ditches and drilling holes, and I've made my way every level up to an executive level. And I use that when I'm leading my teams for the fact that I know how they feel at certain situations, because I've been there. I've done that. I've been yelled at by a boss, or I've been in this situation that put me in a corner. So I know how to get them out of that and guide them out of those situations where we're still liking each other. We're still enjoying each other. We're still having the key word, fun. And you can put all those together. You're right. You have fun. You create a great atmosphere where people feel safe. They don't feel like their jobs are aligned. They don't have to look over the shoulders. It's amazing how much your efficiencies just skyrocket, and your, turnover rate goes way down. And that's what you want with companies, is efficiency and low turnover rates. And it's amazing what can be done.
Let me validate you and tell you there is research now. I sometimes play this card too much, I think, because I'm not a practicing scientist, so to speak. I retired. I do, however, have a great appreciation for the bulk of the research that's out there. And the truth is, you know what? People will leave jobs voluntarily when they have enough skill to be, valuable in the market. And the number one reason for voluntary turnover is bad boss relationships. Number one, consistent finding for many, many years. Number one. There's also research that says people will stay at a job when they know they are not maximizing their wages in the market. They know they could go make an extra 10, 20, 25, 30% somewhere else. And they don't do that because they don't think it's worth the risk. And a lot of people jump. We know that. I advise people not to do that unless you're getting 25% minimum, number one. Number two, you have great knowledge of where you're jumping into. If you don't have meaningful knowledge of the culture and the players that will dominate your life every day, and you're not getting a premium, a serious premium, not 5 and 10%, you never jump for 5 and 10 and 15%, then you should not do that. But the truth is, that's the people will accept. I know I'm not making the best in industry, but I love what I do. I respect my boss. I dig my teammates. I actually do more than tolerate work. I love what I do, at least half the time. Those people, you don't have to pay them leading market wages. Now, I'm not trying to get people to underpay folks. I'm just pointing out that tenure and loyalty doesn't come from maximizing what you pay people. It comes from maximizing the experience at work. Do they understand the meaning of their work, why it actually serves a higher purpose? Do they experience generally positive, productive relationships? When it's a yes across the board there, money's an interesting secondary motivator.
And, and the big thing is, too, I agree 100% with that, because I've been in those situations. I've worked for amazing companies and I've worked for horrible companies. And it's just crazy, just night and day how much different they are, just culture-wise, just in that. But especially, I would say over the last 20 years, especially since the internet has launched, you get recruiters. I get recruiters calling me daily, message me daily. I mean, there's so much there. So in this day and age, if you can keep people for 10, 15, 20 years,
crazy.
That tells me there's a great culture there. It does, because, I mean, it is so easy to find another job now, unlike it was 15, 20, 30 years ago, where you either had to look in the newspaper or know somebody. That's basically it. There wasn't much more than that. But now I can look on about 30 different sites to look for a job if I want to, or call 20 different recruiters, and there would be something there the next day, so
I'm biased, of course. I love the tools they give us at LinkedIn, because I've got so many good friends there. Having said that, I actually think two things when I see long tenure like that today. First thing I think is they possibly have a great fit with their job and or great culture that they're a part of, like you were saying. Another possibility, which is also almost equally as true, I think. I really, really mean this, because I'm going to meet a lot of people. is that their performance standards are, let's call them easy instead of hard. And they don't have a performance management system that really tries to maximize productivity and push us forward with meaningful goals. People get ensconced in jobs when they're not pushed very hard. And we don't fire anybody here. That's just kind of against the culture, and nobody calls anybody out. And, bad mediocrity persists too easily. Those are just not toxic necessarily, just lackluster cultures in terms of performance. They're very common. So then I got to start asking questions to figure out which one I'm looking at. But they're both pretty common.
And piggybacking off of that, it's a good but bad thing. It's almost like they're too comfortable in their job.
Yep.
And I love having comfort, but then at the same time, I want to keep learning. So you need to keep that comfort level. It's a really hard line there. It's like you want to enjoy, you want to be comfortable, but at the same time, you want to be pushed.
Sure.
But you don't want to be pushed you don't want to push people to the point they're going to leave.
No, every individual and every team's got a different breaking point for sure. But I guess really kind of navigating where it should be to maximize it is not frequent in practice. What's much more frequent is people pushing too hard, too many people stressed and upset, or the lax thing where we've not come up to our potential close enough at all. Figuring out through reading people, through talking, through looking for indicators of stress, for looking at metrics that matter around the workplace, from turnover to productivity to absenteeism, et cetera. You can get a gauge of, are we kind of close to where that proper line should be, or are we too lax or way too hard? Believe it or not, just thinking about it like I just described it isn't as common as it should be, which of course, gives me something to talk about. But people feel better when they're around that line, not pushed too hard and not being allowed to be too comfortable, too lazy.
I've told former teams of mine, I go, listen, guys, this is how it's supposed to be. I'm hired to make sure I'm doing what's best for the entity and the company. But at the same time, I have a philosophy is I want to do what's best for our department too, because I want to take care of you guys. I go, some days I'm going to have to be a jerk. That's just part of the game. Yep. You don't take it personal, but I always tell them, don't make me get to that point too. You got to help me with that. And I always tell them, don't make me do paperwork. I have enough of it already. And, that's writing up or PIPs or whatever,
Sure.
And, that philosophy for me has worked really well. It really has, because I'm being upfront and honest with them. I'm just like, hey guys, listen.
We call that
how it is.
Preview, man. That's keeping it real, and it's very useful. Generally speaking, it's very useful. Now, if that practice is used by someone who's a consistent jerk that most don't like, then it's going to be not useful at all. But I would rephrase it like this: the key to getting away with occasional difficult behavior, occasional I got to dictate, occasional I might raise my voice or even be nasty for 5 seconds. To occasionally get away with that is easy when the average that they see from you is positive, helpful, clear, supportive, reasonable. When those things do define your average, a little break here and there where you show your imperfections and have to be a little less than perfect, they understand, they blow off, they get back to it. They're reacting to you based on that average.
My background's facilities, if a lot of people who are new don't understand. So I like to say I'm 50-50. I'm 50% desk work, 50% on the floor with my team doing work with them, because that's where you gain a lot of their respect. If you're down there doing, and I'm not doing the easy stuff. I'm doing some of the hard stuff with them because, I can go down there. Oh, I'll go tighten that screw. Not a problem. Well, anybody can do that. I'm down there getting greasy, getting dirty, working late hours with them, and it's just, I always felt when I had leadership do that with me, I had way more respect for them. I was willing to go the extra mile for them and willing to just give everything for that person, and
people talk in society about class warfare a lot. To your point, I really like to tell people, man, it happens at work so much, and there is an easier anecdote, an easier way to go address it at work than we have figured out in society. And it's to do exactly what you just said. If you humble yourself, and that's a version of humbling yourself, if you humble yourself and go help people where they are, do some of the difficult things they have to do, proving that you still have respect for them, you have competence, et cetera. It's amazing how much they see you differently and follow you when you have to make difficult calls they don't always love, because they know where your character is, your heart is, because you've been down there, sleeves rolled up, getting dirty on occasion. There's nothing better for building respect than going to be right there at their side, getting stuff done.
I think the number one key that everybody needs to learn going into a leadership position is servant leadership. I believe that needs to be the number one thing, because people need to realize you're only getting paid because the work the people are doing the level below you and the level below that. And you have to learn how to be gracious and just treat them like family. I even if I don't get along with somebody on my team, I still treat them like family, because I see them more probably at work. I'm probably at work more than I am at home, so let's enjoy our time together. We don't have to be best friends. We don't. That's not in anybody's job description, is to be best friends with anybody. But if we can be cordial, get along, and at least enjoy our time together and just show signs of respect for each other, it's amazing what happens.
You're what I call natural. You don't need me to lay out a million things for you to. You kind of naturally gravitate towards what I think of as common sense, but not everyone does. Yeah. Really positive outlooks on relationships at work. You just took something straight out of my playbook. We're not trying to be best friends. No, that can be problematic for odd reasons. We're not trying to be distant, non-friends, no positivity, work only, measured distance relationships, cold, nothing positive. There's a sweet spot in the middle where you are colleagues first, but it is positive, it is friendly. It's not 100% work. It's some personal, even though you're not trying to be a classic friend. It's personal. When you can get comfortable in that middle space, that's when productivity goes up. That's when people respect others who don't always agree with them, etc. So your gut's in the right place, man.
Yeah. Thank you. One of my fun stories I like telling people, especially new leaders and everything, is when I got my first leadership position, I was a frontline employee with everybody, downstairs. And then all of a sudden I got this project management position, and it turned into a chief engineering, which is the manager position. And so the one day I was everybody's friend, everybody's joking. And right when I moved upstairs the next day, nobody liked me. I was like, what? And they're like, you're one of them now. And that's the problem, is leadership has the stigma that they're horrible, they're mean. And I think a lot of it has to do with the culture you're in too. But it was funny. I'm like, no, I'm no different than I was yesterday. And they're like, blah, blah, blah. So then I do my next thing. Like I always tell people, you kill people with kindness. You say hi to them every day. You just do whatever. Even if they don't talk back, just wave, just ask how they're doing. Then I start coming downstairs and telling them why stuff got rejected, how the budget worked, how all these different steps that I didn't even know when I was down there. And then all of a sudden they're like, what? I go, I'm here for you guys. We're here together. Even though I'm a step ahead now, we're still a giant team.
Sure.
We have to all work together. I don't care what the person above me is. Screw them. I'm kind of like, this is how I'm going to lead, because we need to make this work. We need to make money. We need to get the bottom line going, and we need to have fun and enjoy ourselves.
I mean, though, for anyone listening, what you just, to my ears anyway, what you were talking about, a lot of it was transparency. That is to say, people have blind spots, which makes complete sense because we do different jobs at work. They have blind spots about how things get done, why they get done, and they make bad assumptions when they don't know the answers to why things happened the way they happened. In your philosophy, which is to tell them, let me tell you why this stuff wasn't approved or why this decision was made. And yes, I stand with them. I didn't completely agree here, but we're going to do this. And this is why it's going on. Your input, by the way, what, et cetera, et cetera. You're giving transparency to the process so they don't have to make weird guesses about why things are happening the way they're happening. Just getting them kind of some process transparency makes people accept decisions and get on board with getting it done a whole lot better. It doesn't cost you anything, but most managers, as soon as they get promoted, especially if they have some success, they'll get more involved in managerial analyses and conversations with other managers, normal things, but they forget to invest in that communication flow, that transparency to keep people below absolutely understanding what the hell's going on and why, because the more they feel like they're part of that conversation, the more they accept the results.
One thing I don't like hearing from leadership is I don't have time. I find that the biggest BS line ever, because listen, you need to figure out time. That's the thing. You're getting paid more money. You're making your way up the line. You need to figure it out. You really do. And, I'm all about work and family balance and everything. Everybody needs to go home with their family. Everybody needs to enjoy time with their family. But I've been at work and I've heard people, I don't have time. I'm like, yes, you go on your calendar every day and block out an hour in the morning, hour in the afternoon, have that for your team.
Yep.
You block that out and make it for months ahead so nobody can take that time from you. You do things. There's always time, and good leadership above you will realize you need to invest in your team or else you're going to lose your team. I mean, I had a boss once tell me, which it made sense. But then thinking about it, it was like, this ain't cool. We never see the person. We never see him down on the floor. He'd never come in the shop. And one day I went up to his office because there was an email written about me, which I was upset about. And I went in, I go, what? I go, this is what happened. This is wrong. He goes, listen, Nick, you didn't get called to the principal's office. So there's nothing there. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I thought about it. I'm like, okay, cool. I guess if they don't talk to us, there's nothing wrong. Well, I still don't like that. Sure. You know, I mean, we're humans. We still need a little bit of good job or seeing who we're working for or just a little pat on the back every once in a while. We're emotional creatures. We still need that.
It's funny. People just get lost in that first promotion, especially. They get lost thinking about, I'm going to analyze my way out of this, think my way out of this. I'm going to spend those hours in the office and get it done. But the office has to be broadly defined. It has to be time spent with people, to use your prescription, because that is absolutely correct. I tell people, first of all, you talking about a work-life balance. I'm not a proponent the way everyone else is. There, I said it. What we know about most successful people is they will clock more hours. Bottom line, they will clock more hours. So the key to not having your family blow up on you during your climb is to have them understand what's going on and not in the dark as to where you are, what you're doing, how you're feeling. And there'll be times when work's light and you can overinvest in family. But anyhow, you're going to work hard. I like to tell people, hey, my MBA students back in the day, you got the promotion. Good for you. Now you're a leader, just like you said you wanted to be. Here's what you should do. And they sometimes resist this, but they usually adopt a version of this. Put it on your calendar. This is me always validating you today, apparently, Nick. Put it on your calendar every day. I usually do multiple hours. You need to be walking around and figuring out how you can help them understand you, help them do their job, help them and you look at the processes that define your team, etc. You should be doing that. And that's going to mean that some of your core job analysis, report writing, blah, 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 is going to be done early morning or after work when everyone else leaves, because during the day, during that first year especially, you're going to be creating great relationships, and there's zero substitutes for getting face-to-face with someone and sharing and listening and listening and sharing and listening and listening. And if you're not doing that, believe me, you are investing. If you're not doing that, you're investing in underperforming relationships. Who wants to do that?
Here's a free tip too, as you said earlier. Invest in other departments within your company too, not just yours. That's the thing. Is I'm in facilities, so we don't talk to a lot of people. I talk to vendors a lot, obviously, but generally we're just behind the scenes fixing things. We're just behind the scenes fixing it. But I always tell people, the other departments, treat them as your customers.
Sure.
So treat them with that respect, because that's what they are. You know, and I like going around to other, like when I worked in casinos, I like going to the security department, the gaming department. One, you learn about people. Two, you figure out what's going on in with the whole company, let's say. And number three, just building those positive relationships. Somewhere down the line, it's going to come back to you, and they're going to help you out when you need the help with, you know, maybe they've been there for 20 years and they know a little secret about the place nobody else knows. And if they have that positive relationship with you, they're going to feel more to give you that secret, you know, because some people like to hide stuff in and not give secrets away because they feel that's more job security for them.
Right.
Fine,
right.
Whatever. You're not going to break that of some people. They're set in their ways. But if you can show them respect and just go day to day, like I said, kill them with kindness, eventually you're going to get that out of them. You really are. So.
I think that I keep coming back to telling you I like that. I like that. In the next 20 years, we're going to see retirement on a level that's just never been seen before. All of those people who are aging out of the workforce are possessors of knowledge of things that aren't documented. And the more the up and coming new generations taking over show through kindness and rapport building and appreciation for relationships, the more they build those bonds, the more they will be gifted useful information that will help them with processes and customers and people in other departments that isn't documented, that could just walk out the door at retirement and never be used again. So yes, huge opportunity to find out those golden nuggets people have.
About 5 years ago, I'm talking to a good friend of mine, and he runs facility management software. So he tours the country. He talks to a bunch of facility managers, directors, you know, just people in these high-end positions, you know, and they put out this article, exactly what you're saying, at least in the facility side of it. Most leaders and long tenured employees are going to retire within the next 5 to 8 years because they're hitting their 30-year mark. They're hitting that. And right now, how a lot of people are going to school, the big trend was IT world, gaming world, and everything. And the trades and facilities, trade schools went way down, so I took that in, and he was absolutely correct. I looked up all these studies and everything, and I was like, okay. So when I was brought into a manufacturing company to rebuild a facilities department that really wasn't there. And I brought in a lot of younger people with hardly any skill set, because I'm like, if this is going to happen in the next 8 to 10 years, let's start building these people to learn in our way, to turn what we need with our machinery, and start building that, instead of worrying about if they have the certain license, certain that, because that person got the certain license, it's going to be worth like double the wage in 5 years that you're willing to give. But if we can build these young people up, they can build with the company, they can build with us, and then we can slowly progress them into those wages and make it into where they are worth what they're worth now. So that was my philosophy. It's just bring in some millennials who have nothing to know about this, but have the attitude that want to learn this stuff. Dude, and it was very successful. It was
the numbers are actually crazy. When you think of the boomers, stepping out wave by wave, they often refer to it as the silver tsunami, because there's so many of them. It's crazy. Hey, Deanna, thank you. It's crazy. So what I like to say, and I mentioned this in the book as well, in the next decade, give or take, massive opportunity for reshaping your talent across all areas, reshaping your talent pipeline. Women, young people, minorities of any kind will be taking over in numbers, proportions never before seen. Some people are scared of this. It's change they've not endured yet. I'm telling you, it is a strategic asset, or one in the making, if you'll embrace it, because of the simple vacuum that is going to be created when the retirement boom begins. And it's really already underway.
I did this talk with a couple people before in a little seminar online, and I didn't realize this at the time, but now looking back at it, when I was at my manufacturer, 71% of my department were women in a facilities department.
Wow.
And it wasn't intentional or anything. It's just the people who interviewed the best. I was like, you're going to be the best fit. You have the best attitude. Let's go do this. It's just, they came in with the attitudes. And there's a saying, I don't know who said it, but I really like it. When you're interviewing people, interview them off 85% attitude and 15% skill. Yeah. Because if they have the right attitude, you should be able to teach them the skill set.
Yeah,
and I love that. And that's my philosophy. I love it. If somebody comes in, just shows me they're ready to go and they want to learn. And because when you're interviewing somebody face to face, you can see their body movements. You can see if they're lying or not. Sure. You can see how they really are. And I can read people really well. So it's like, I just love that. And I mean, I've had people all nervous in interviews. I'm like, do you need a bottle of water? If they smoke, I go, do you need to go have a cigarette? Just calm down. It's all good. I mean, we're fine, Well, I really need this job because I've been late. Okay, let's take a couple deep breaths. Let's come back in about 5 minutes and let's start all over. I mean, I want to give them a fair shake at it, I just feel that.
Yeah,
people do get nervous, and that's just how human beings are sometimes. So, I want them to be at their best when they come in. I've hired people that have come in with dirty jeans and sweatshirts because they're in a situation in life that they didn't have a job for 4 or 5 months, and they end up being my best employees.
Yep.
I've hired people who come in suits. It doesn't matter. Just give me a good interview. That's all I want, is just a good interview and see your real personality. Don't go in and lie. Be honest and show me your personality. And that's going to get you a lot farther in an interview than being a robot and this is the answer I'm supposed to give. This is the answer I'm supposed to give.
Yeah.
For me, I don't want to hear it. I mean, because we're going to have fun and enjoy work. I don't want robotic people or sheep. I want people who want to invest the time, come in and have fun.
Yeah, you want the best people, not the best resumes. I hear you. I think that's a wise orientation. You're not looking for just the perfect GPA, just the right school, just the right degree. Those are possibly useful indicators for sure. You're looking for a person that feels real, that feels capable, that feels like they might be somebody worth talking to every day. The intangibles in an interview are always the best part, not a discussion of the bullet points on the resume.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm in a job field where it's facilities. You don't need big degrees or anything. I mean, our metrology techs, we needed some degrees in that. That's one thing. But, you can go to mechanic school and learn how to do a certain type of machine, but that's only the machines we have. And I always told people the great thing for us is you can Google anything or YouTube anything and learn how to fix $1 million machine. You really can. So if you invest the time with your team and take those videos and sit down with them, you can really build a good team, and build to what you need. I don't need to build to what everybody else has out there. I just need to build to what we needed, So that's what made it a lot of fun, was just learning, and being able to teach people, because I was learning at the same time too. I came from the casino field, went into high-end aerospace aviation. I would have never thought that would have happened. But those people called me because they said, we heard about you. We know how you work. We know how you are with people. We know how you build culture. Come in and do it. That's what we're looking for. And I was like, well, this is weird. Nobody's asked me to do that before, but like you said, sometimes you just get that phone call and you got to be grateful for it.
I think it was a karma thing. I really do. The more you're helping people, I do some pro bono work like any decent professional should. In fact, there's a story in the book Live Hard about some of my favorite gigs I've ever done in terms of speaking, and 3 of my favorites ever were pro bono. One was for a food bank here in Houston, which does crazy, amazing work. And I just felt so full of purpose when I met these people. And another was a student group, and this one was amazing. It was at a prison with a bunch of male prisoners, 300 video, who were, way more tatted up than me. How you like that? Yeah. And excited about getting back into life and making that transition happen. And I was there as a guest of a program to give a talk. I was not there to give a talk, but they asked me on the fly if I wanted to address the group. And so this is impromptu. And prisoners, first time I'd ever been in a prison. And it was crazy and enlightening to see people who wanted to learn something. These gentlemen wanted to learn something. And when you have people, this is actually tied into your comments on hiring. When you see people that are genuinely with you in the moment, want to listen to you, want to share, want to engage, want to experience some positive emotions and maybe even learn something, man, you're looking at people with whom you can have a great conversation, or in your position that you might want to get serious about hiring. So I hear you, man.
Like you said, it's absolutely great when you have that group of people who just want to be there. Oh my God, it makes it a lot of fun. That's what people don't realize. No matter how bad my boss makes me mad over something, but if I can go back to that team and I can just see them enjoying what they're doing and enjoying what we're building as a culture in a department, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's like, I'll get them taken care of. Don't worry about it, guys. It's my job. Let me deal with that. But we're enjoying what we're doing. Let's bring back some positive stuff for them. Let's show them what we're doing. Let's show them how we're kicking butt for them. Let's prove that to them. The numbers are coming out next week. They'll see it in the numbers, and because
go ahead.
Because people in those positions, in executive positions, board of directors and everything, they don't see what's going on the floor. All they worry about is numbers. That's all they worry about. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to the numbers come out. Then when the numbers come out, they're like, well, we don't get it. How did you improve by 25% or 30%? It's like, because I treat people like humans, not as numbers like you guys do. And
yeah.
What are you talking about? Well, get out on the floor every once in a while. You'll notice.
One of my favorite topics is experiencing meaning in work, feeling some purpose in work. I love that you're coming from a facilities perspective and sharing your philosophy, because people don't always want to hear this, but it's true. You could experience meaning in work or lack of meaning in work, no purpose at all, no matter what you do. You could be in some dream job people think is always exciting and fulfilling. You could be in a mediocre job, but sometimes you could be in a job no one ever wants. No one ever went to college and said, you know what, I want to be a sanitation engineer, AKA a garbage man. No one ever said that. But when you go interview them, and social scientists have done this, you will find that they have a wide distribution of job satisfaction, feeling of purpose in their work, depending on what? The quality of that boss relationship, the quality of the relationships that surround them every day. But the biggest one is the boss relationship. So whether it's facilities, accounting, engineering, sanitation engineers, it doesn't matter what it is. It's amazing how you, in fact, can feel positive about what you did that day if those relationships are in place. So massive kudos to you for getting it.
Well, here's one thing. I was doing an exit interview one time for one company, because that's when I moved on to this manufacturing company I spoke about. And they're like, wow, we're just kind of so grateful you came with us. You saved us $1.5 million in this time and that. I'm like, okay. And they're looking at me, well, aren't you proud of that? I go, yes, but that was my job description. That's what you guys brought me in to do. What I'm more proud about is my department's turnover rate went from 40% down to 2.5%. I was able to develop 2 people to become, one an operation manager and one a chief engineer. I was able to build their skill set and improve their lives. I go, that's what I'm most proud about. My job description is my job description. I know going into it, this is what I'm going to do. But if I can help improve people's lives, that's the win. And the other one was we brought the turnover rate so much down that it saved us money, because I don't know what the exact numbers are, Todd, but I believe it's something like, depending on where you work and everything, it's up to $10,000 to hire on an employee with the interview process, with all the paperwork. We had to do federal background checks. So there's all that. And I'm like, I increased that, we dropped that by almost 23%. How much money did that save it was a casino. How much money did that save the casino? That was almost $100,000 in savings right there that you guys aren't even putting into this other stuff, because you don't realize, because you don't think that way, No. And I go, that's what I'm proud of.
You should be proud of that. There's a bunch of research that's emerging that says the more people understand these types of philosophical approaches to managing people, the better their companies perform on average. There is evidence to that fact, which is really, really fun to share. So kudos. Yeah.
I think this new wave, like people in my age range, coming up now, understand that more than people above my age range, because it was never taught to them. They were more of the yes, sir, no, sir, do it this way. You're lucky you got a job. Here's your paycheck. And as we're coming, I'm in my 40s, coming up, we're being taught, servant leadership. We're being taught, treat people like family, treat people like that. So I think it is a distinct advantage. And in the next, like you said, 10 to 15 years, when all these people are retiring, this new wave is coming in, I think there's going to be a big change in company culture and the way people view things coming up.
Yeah, I'm hopeful, man. I'm very, very hopeful. I think that, there's someone in politics once said, every emergency or disaster should be used somehow. And I think that's true. I think this pandemic is going to kickstart a lot of conversations that need to be kickstarted about how we attract the right people, what our future workforce is supposed to look like, and how we deal with this crazy retirement thing that's about to happen, and how we're going to diversify and be excited as hell about it in terms of young people, women, minorities, etc. I think that's going to define a lot of people's professional success in the next 10 years, how much they can harness and use the significantly emerging diversity in the global workforce, for sure.
Absolutely. 100% agree. So Todd, we're approaching an hour, man. It hasn't even seemed like that. This has been just awesome. Before we get to our closing, I guess, statements or whatever we want to do, what's a couple cool things about Todd that you don't think people know that you would like to know about that?
Well, that license plate right there, was from my first Harley, and that's where the name of this book came from. They wouldn't know that unless they read the book or maybe heard me talk about it. They wouldn't know that. Thank you. They wouldn't know that. What I'm most proud of has nothing to do with professional things. I'm always working on professional things, but I'm most proud of being a decent dad. I got 2 kids who are not insane during this pandemic and still doing really well, even though life has been horribly disrupted for them. And I don't know how else to say that, but it's very similar to you talking about the inherent pleasure of building other people at work and helping them be successful. I feel the same type of thing as a parent watching these kids develop. My 2 boys are 17 and 14, and I am a very proud papa.
Awesome, man. I mean, being a parent's awesome. I'm a grandpa too, so that's even more fun. But during this pandemic, it hasn't been, because they're in Washington, so we don't get to see them. Yeah. But thank God for FaceTime. I mean, that's just been one of the greatest things. We almost FaceTime them every night, so that's what's keeping that going. But no, you're absolutely correct. When you're able to build your kids up too, and just help them. Like when the daughter called, hey, can you help me with my resume? Can you help me with this? It just makes you feel like, hey, maybe something I've done has actually worked. So it makes you feel good.
Pax was actually, he's not credited here because he didn't want it. It's a long story, but he was an editor on the manuscript there. And it was the first time he ever did a deep dive of any kind into what does his dad do. And it was a bonding thing. It was a cool bonding thing to not only can you help them, to your point, but you can bring them into what you do and give them a little exposure to your world. And that's a bonding thing. So there's understanding that comes from that. And I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely, man. So, hey, Todd, this has been a 100% absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed myself. This has gone by quick, to be honest with you. I mean, hopefully we can do this again. Get back on. really quick, let's do it. Let's plug your books. Where can they find them? Where can they find you?
Very easy.
All those fun stuff.
Thankfully, I have a face and a name that's not common. Last name's Dewett, Dewett. So you just Google me, you'll find all kinds of things. My home base on the web is drdewett.com. And of course, if you're on LinkedIn, you'll find me and a lot of what I do all over LinkedIn. So reach out. I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for jumping on. If you look up there in the corner, come follow me on LinkedIn. I would really appreciate it. You can find all past podcasts up there, YouTube, Nick Dorsey Leadership. And you can find us on Anchor now, and then you can go to any one of your favorite streaming places because, Spotify, Google, all that fun stuff. I mean, I don't know. They send them out to all over. So come find us there. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We had a lot of live people. It doesn't show it up there on the YouTube one, but LinkedIn's had a lot of live people. Thank you for the comments. I appreciate everybody who jumped on today looks like we've had people from all parts of the world. So that's a lot of fun. Tomorrow we have a Forbes contributor and another TEDx speaker, which I'm excited to interview him too. Alan Hutskins will be on tomorrow. Great guy. Then Wednesday will be Tasia, which Todd and I met on the Run of the World, I believe is the name of that. Great thing. Check them out. I tagged them in the comments below too. They probably appreciate you guys checking them out. And hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in today. If you have any comments, put them down there, and we'll get back to you with any questions or any answers if you have any questions. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. See you tomorrow at noon, Mountain Time.